This is the grave marking for Calvert Cemetery. Today's date is 4/25/2018.
Would you post the colors, please?
Color guard, post colors. Left, peak. Forward, march.
Now for introductions of the dignitaries. We will have a time for greetings further in the program. At this time, I want to recognize, first of all, Ernest Calvert. Would you raise your hand, Ernest? Ernest is the treasurer of the cemetery committee who made this all possible for us, the mowing and the upkeep that they do. Now for the dignitaries and the organizations. I would like to introduce, first of all, Rick Hollis, who is the President General Society of War of 1812. Rick. I'd like to introduce James Choctaw, State President for the same society. Then we have Mark Krebs, who's the Treasurer of the same society. I don't say it because I'm having trouble getting the words right in order. Okay. Then we have the state president for the ladies, the National Society Daughters of the War of 1812, and that is Lynn Kiesling. Then under the title of the National Society Sons of the American Revolution, we have the National Treasurer General, Jack Manning. Then we have past Vice President General of the Central District, T. Rex Legler. Then we have Sheila Manning, who is National Society Ladies Auxiliary to the SIR. She is past first Vice President. Then we have Indiana State Grave Registrar, Ed Hitchcock. Then we have Indiana State Presidents, the present chapter presidents. There's Ernest Payne from the Ohio Valley chapter. Thank you. Then from the DAR, current Regent Heather Johnson, Captain Henry Vandenberg chapter. We have newly elected Regent for the Bloomin' chapter, April Legler. Are there any other officers I have not mentioned? Please let us hear you. Vanetta?
Senior Society President for the Evansville Society Children of the American Revolution.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
We have the chapter president of the Jonathan Jennings chapter, USD 1812, Carolyn Lynn.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Blonde moments do happen. Molly?
Lafayette Spring chapter, DAR, and Brigadier General Eli Houston Murray chapter of the Daughters of the Union.
Thank you. All right. At this time, please have a seat. If you got a chair. Sorry. The Hugh McGary Senior Chapter welcomes all of you, and currently we have several officers from this chapter present. Sandy Banks, would you please raise your hand? She's our treasurer. Molly Hall, would you please raise your hand? She is our registrar. Marilyn Rhodes, would you raise your hand? She is our chaplain. I myself am the president of that particular chapter. Now I would like to call on Rick Hollis, who is the Society of, I'm going to mess it up, I know I am. General Society of the War of 1812. Rick, would you please bring greetings?
Thank you all. It's wonderful to be here today. Isn't it great that it's not raining? I was worried about that last week when it didn't seem to stop at my house, which is just due south of here a couple of hours. But it is so nice that so many of you here that I actually know. I also want to point out that our Treasurer General happens to also be the President of the Society of the War of 1812 in the state of Massachusetts. We're able to say that. We're north of the Ohio River. So anyway, we're very proud to see both of you here. I know y'all have had a wonderful week in Indiana. When we gather for events like this, I always like to compliment the organizers. And I don't know who they are, but I can just imagine the groups here working. But in old cultures, there are some who have believed that when a man dies, he dies 3 times. The first time is his physical death, when the breath leaves from his mouth. Others, the other time that he dies is when he is buried into the ground. And then the third time is the last time that his name passes through someone's lips. You all have helped remember this gentleman, this brave soldier, and I commend you for doing that. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Rick. Now I'd like to call on Lynn Kiesling, the Indiana State President for the Daughters of 1812 National Society.
I didn't know that. Hello everyone. I would like to thank everyone and especially Rebecca for asking me to be here. I am finishing up my final year as the Indiana State President, U.S. Daughters of 1812. It's been a marvelous adventure. I know I have a good committee of officers coming on in July, and I don't have a speech, but thank you for inviting me, and I bring greetings from the State Society.
Okay. Next, may I hear from Heather Johnson, please, the Captain Henry Vandenberg Chapter Regent.
I want to thank you guys for being here today and for inviting us to enjoy and share with you. I cannot imagine what it has cost in time and effort to get this to go forward. It's amazing the things that we find when we're looking for something else. And on behalf of the Captain Henry Vandenberg chapter, I want to thank you very much for inviting us. And it's a wonderful day. Thank you.
Vanetta McDowell, would you please bring greetings from the CAR board?
Hi. Beautiful day. Thank you all for inviting the Evansville Society of the CAR to come out and enjoy in this trademarking. We've only been active for 1 year, but we're making ourselves a presence in the state of Indiana. Again, thank you for having us.
Now I have the pleasure of introducing someone from the next generation. He was surprised that I asked him to say a few words. Luke Pettyjohn. He is an Eagle Scout. He is currently the historian, registrar, and the librarian for the Evansville chapter, Children of the American Revolution.
Thank you for having me.
Guys, give him a scholarship when he gets there.
Thank you for having me. Nice day. Goodbye.
Oh, Luke. That's the young for you. Remember when you were there. Okay. Now I would like to introduce a descendant of the veteran David Brumfield, Lieutenant. Okay? And descendant I would like to recognize is T. Rex Legler, who will give you a spot. A spot.
I'd like to take just a few minutes of your time. First, thanking all of you coming here to recognize one of my ancestors. David Brumfield, David Barry Brumfield. There's 7 generations between him and I, or him and me, and I would suspect that that makes him my 4th great-grandfather, although those of you who are better versed in genealogy than I would be able to tell me exactly what it is. On the back of your program is a little bit of history about David Brumfield. You can read that at your leisure. What I'd like you to think about at the moment is that most of our lineage societies have something to do with heritage. I'm very proud that David Brumfield served his country and he fought at the Battle of Tippecanoe. I have ancestors who fought at Fallen Timbers in Ohio, the War of 1812. I have ancestors from Tennessee who served in the militia south of the Ohio. I have numerous ancestors in Pennsylvania that we can trace back to the War of 1812. But I was particularly interested in this ancestor because I grew up, for the most part, in and around Evansville. I went to Bosse High School. I went to Indiana University, and I very much wanted to recognize my Hoosier patriot. But more importantly, when I was thinking about him, I was thinking about heritage. Why are we in this? What is our heritage? And I thought about those generations between me and David, and I thought of those wonderful things that each generation has contributed. And then I thought, what about David Brumfield? What did he think about? I looked at his heritage, and his father, James, and his grandfather, Robert, were both Revolutionary War soldiers back in Virginia. And they crossed the mountains into Washington County, Kentucky, where David was born. And then he moved up here with some of them, and he intermingled with other families of Revolutionary War veterans and other veterans there, and they intermarried. And if you look at the tapestry that's here within southern Indiana of these people, we have such a rich and valuable history that we can pass on. So that our young Eagle Scouts from Buffalo Trace Council, I got my Eagle Scout here in 1960, okay? So if you count on your fingers and toes, that was a couple years ago, right? Okay, someday you may be standing in a place just like this, telling your family and your children and your grandchildren about what your family may have done to contribute to your community. And that's what we're all about, is building our communities and building our citizenship. So I thank you very much for coming here to help Rebecca, who is also, believe it or not, my sister, and a 7th great granddaughter. He's her 4th great grandfather, so she's the great granddaughter, however that works. And we're so happy that you're here to be able to help us to celebrate. So Rebecca, I'll turn it back over to you for our next part.
Now we'll have the unveiling of the stone I would ask everyone to stand and stay standing until we have completely unveiled the stone. I will ask Marilyn Rhodes, our chaplain, to give a brief.
To all those present, let it be known that the United Society, United States Daughters of 1812, recognizes the service rendered by Lieutenant David Brumfield during the War of 1812. In God's name, we state that our everlasting gratitude for his service to the United States of America. We lay this rose in his memory and uncover the marker for all those to recognize his service.
Thank you. Please be seated. Now we will have the presentation of wreaths. We'll start with the General Society of the War of 1812, and that would be Mark Krebs. Did he? I thought he told me he was Rick? Did you bring one, Rick? I'm sorry. Rick Hollis is first, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely first. But he told me no when I asked him. Making this list. Okay. Did Mark, did Shop Top bring one?
It's the same one. Same ring.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's the same ring. Okay. All right. Thank you, Rick. Bear with me. Thank you. Vanetta McDowell, Hugh McGary, Senior Chapter, National Society, Daughters of 1812. Then we will have the SAR. Jack Manning, Treasurer General, National Society, Sons of American Revolution. And that will be followed by T. Rex Legler, past Vice President General, Central District, National Society, Sons of American Revolution. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Rex. Thank you. Ed Hitchcock, for the chapter Daniel Guthrie. Sheila, do you have one? Yes. Sheila Manning.
You need to move that back because you're right.
Sheila is past Vice President, first Vice President, National Society Ladies Auxiliary, Sons of American Revolution. Ernest Payne, President, Ohio Valley, National Society, Sons of American Revolution. Ernie and Jacqueline. Then we have Gary Tunget for the Lieutenant Robert Mosley chapter in Owensboro. Thank you, Gary. Now for the National Side Daughters of the American Revolution. Captain Henry Vandenberg chapter, Heather Johnson. Thank you, Heather. April Legler for the Bloomington chapter. Whoa! Whoa! Thank you, April. Thank you, Rex. Then Molly Hall, Lafayette Springs chapter.
I'm fine.
For the National Society Children of the American Revolution, Luke Pettijohn, Evansville chapter. Thank you, Luke. Eli Houston Murray chapter, Daughters of the Union, Marilyn Rhodes. Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you.
Rex, do we going to have a 3-volley or just a volley? Now in closing, we're going to have a volley. Commander. This is James Shoptop, State President for the General Society. Once again, Commander of the volley, please.
Musket detail. Advance. Arms. Make ready.
Did you pick this red top? You're going to be able to get the gun marker right behind me if you want.
Sir, do not stand there while we're firing.
Because they're going to aim that direction.
It's okay.
Vanetta, that was close.
Well, they didn't good need their firing range yet.
Yeah.
Breeze in. Fire. Recover. Drop your back. Hold arms. Present. Hunch. Order. Horn.
Thank you, Gary Tunga. Thank you very much. Commander of the Color Guard. Could we have recession of colors?
Color Guard,
Please.
fall in on the colors. Musketmen, advance arms. Color bearers, retrieve your colors. Right face. Counter march to the left. March.
Would the chaplain, Marilyn Rhodes, please give us benediction?
Let us pray. Accept our praise, O Lord, for the blessings of this day. Give to us, we pray, a willing attitude of service and loving hearts for our country and veterans. And bless you all on your way. Amen.
Thanks to
This is the end of the dedication of grave dedication on April 29, 2018 on David Barry Brumfield. Calvert Cemetery, Calvert Chapel Cemetery, Armstrong Township, Vandenberg County. And this was sponsored by the Hugh McGary chapter, National Society of United States Daughters of 1812. And this is the history of this gentleman on the program. I will read it to you. This is David Barry Brumfield, born September 19th of 1786 in Kentucky to James and Jonah Barry Brumfield. While living in Kentucky, in Knox County, present-day Vandenberg County, he enlisted in Captain William Hargrove's company of militia infantry. His enlistment was from September 18th to 19th of November 1811, beginning as a corporal. He was promoted October of 1811 to lieutenant. His service of the war in 1812 included fighting battle of Tippecanoe. On January 23rd, 1812, he married Mary Polly Patton, daughter of James and Phoebe McAllister Patton of Knox County. They had 6 children, 4 sons, and 2 daughters. Early 1830s, he was appointed Justice for the Peace of Warwick County, Indiana Governor William Henry Harrison for Pigeon Township, Indiana. On 19 March 1818, he was appointed elected County Commissioner for Vandenberg County, Armstrong Township. October 1813, he served grand jury, and in May 1818, a juror for first indictment of murder in the county. He was purported to be an honest and highly educated man by his peers. Having led an exemplary life, he died 10 January 1939, buried in Calvert Chapel Cemetery, as we just dedicated his gravesite. Now, I have in front of me, this is Ernie Colbert. Ernie Colbert is the person that has kept this cemetery we're in right now so pristine. And Ernie, this is your parents' grave right behind us, Clinton and Marjorie. Can you tell us a little bit about them? And then behind there is your aunt, Mrs. Vogel, that's your mother's sister. Ernie, tell us how you've been in charge of this cemetery for 3 years. You're the chairman of the cemetery board, and you're keeping this fine just for your parents' memory.
Yeah, I'm actually a secretary treasurer. This going on my probably starting the 4th year. They started this back in the middle of 1800s in the records that we got. Of course, this is my mom and dad's grave. Mama used to be a Montgomery, and her mom used to be a Calvert, and that's how there's a lot of Calverts that is born here. So I got a lot of aunts and uncles right around this area here. So and this is supposed to be the highest point in Vanderburgh County. A lot of people think the cemetery is in Posey County, but it is Vanderburgh County. So we'll see a long ways from up here.
We're probably altitude at Vanderburgh County is about 380 feet, so you're probably maybe 400 or 500 feet up here.
I was talking to a gentleman earlier, and he said we're above 500 feet.
So that's pretty high here. If you have a flood, you're in pretty good shape here.
Yeah.
If Noah's Ark starts working, we'll be right up on top of this hill with your ancestors. Well, people like you making a big difference here. Ernie's been taking care of this. He's a real worker, and he's kept this cemetery in beautiful order. And next generations have to do the same to keep our ancestors in good memory. Thank you, and we're going to go back to another gravestone here and get to your mom's parents, and we're going to just walk backwards about 20 feet.